Okay. Okay. So we have test 79 game 2. I think this one is just a regular kind of grouping game. Nothing too fancy with it. We're not doing like a hybrid or anything, so it's just a simple grouping game. So we have 6 park rangers. We have J, K, L, M, O, and P are each to be assigned to monitor one of 3 areas. We have area 1, area 2, and area 3. And at least 1 ranger, but no more than 3 are assigned to each area. So for a rule like this, if it's giving you like a minimum or a maximum or an exact amount, I'm just going to put that directly into my diagram. This one's giving me a minimum and a maximum. So I have to have this range of 1 to 3. So to represent that, I'm just going to put 3 dashes here. And that's going to remind me that I have to have at least 1 in each of those spots. And if I fill up a row, or I guess it's called fill up a column, then I can't have any more. So like that 3rd spot is kind of like my max. I can't go beyond it. So that's how I'm going to do my setup for right now. There's nothing really else that I can do as far as a setup before I go into the rules, because we're not ordering them within the groups. We're not doing anything like that. All we're concerned about is who is in plot 1, plot 2, plot 3. So we'll just jump right into our rules. So rule 1 says M is assigned to area 3. That's really nice and easy. I'm just going to pop in M into that 3rd area, and I'm not going to worry about that rule anymore. If you can plop in a rule like this, rather than writing it out to the side, you should really just put it directly into your diagram. It's going to save you time. So don't have to worry about that rule anymore. My next rule says neither O nor P is assigned to area 1. So I'm just going to put above number 1, can't have N, can't have O. And that's, wait, am I missing? Oh, wait, that's P and O. Can't have P, can't have O. And that's giving me something to think about. Usually I don't like writing rules where variables can't go. I like to focus on where variables can go. But this is giving me an idea of, okay, if I can't have O and I can't have P, and I've already placed M, really the only variables that can go in spot 1 are J, K, and L. So it's at least giving me an idea of what could go in there. And it's only 3 variables. So if I wanted to, I could throw them all in there, right? Yeah, I could throw them all in there. So just something to think about, but I'm not going to really worry about this rule anymore because I've put it into my diagram. The next rule says L is assigned to the same area as either K or M, but not both. So this is one of those rules where I am going to write it out to the side, and then I'm going to kind of work from it in there. So we have 2 options. L is either with K or L is with M, but we can't have them together. Can't have them together. So I guess we could kind of, I'm not going to really start with this rule, at least right now, until I get into the next rule. We could start with this rule, especially since we already have M placed. We could say that L is either in 3 with M, or L is in 1 or 2 with K. It's a good starting point. It's only giving me about 3 options because I can only put L in 3 places. But I want to see what that next rule is, because that rule just seems kind of like a lot right now for me to deal with. I don't feel like starting with that one right now. So our last and final rule says if O is assigned to area 2, then J is assigned to the same area as K. Otherwise, J is assigned to a different area than K. Okay, so I'm going to write out the first part. So this rule is kind of like 2, I guess I shouldn't say 2 rules in one, but it's 2 options. So we either have O assigned to 2, or we have O basically assigned to 3, because O can't go in 1. So when O is assigned to 2, then we know that J is with K. But when O is assigned to 3, we know that J and K hate each other. So I actually think I'm going to start with that 4th rule rather than my 3rd rule, because I only have 2 options where I can put O. because we know that O can't go in 1. So I know that O is either going to go in 2 or 3. And depending on where I put O, different things happen. So that's why I'm going to create a second world. So this is our first world, second world. We have 1, 2, 3. So we have P can't go in 1, O can't go in 1. So we either have O in 2 or O in 3. And then I'm just going to follow through with that rule. So when O is in 2, we know that J and K have to be together. And when O is in 3, J and K hate each other. So now I don't have to think about that rule anymore. And that actually can kind of help us with placing rule number 3, because we have K duplicating each other in there. So if we know that K and M can't be together, they hate each other basically, because L has to be with one of K or M, then we can actually kind of figure out where K is limited to. So pretty much K can only go in 1 or 2. So we can take that first world and kind of work from there. So we can either put J and K in 1 or J and K in 2. So I'm going to break that up. And I'm not going to put O in there because we've already placed O. So J and K can, J and K can go in 1, or J and K can go in 2. And I'm going to start working on the second world too. I'm going to figure out where K can go so we can kind of lead ourselves into that third rule. And then we'll kind of go through the worlds that we've created and kind of place the rest of our variables. So in my second world, if I know that L has to go with either K or M, it means K and M are going to hate each other. So in that fourth world, I only have K going in 1, or I have K going in 2. 3, O, P can't go in 1. So we have K in 1 or K in 2. And that can lead us to figure out where J is kind of restricted to, meaning J can't be with K. So J is either in 2 or 3, or when K is in 2, J is either in 1 or 3. And it may be that it gets forced to go somewhere once we kind of flush out that third rule. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of do those things. What are they called? I don't know. It's been a day. Okay, so this third rule says L has to either go with K or M. So I guess I could just kind of plop them in there wherever I want. So either L is going to go here, or L is going to go here. In that third world, L has to go with either K or M. Well, it can't go with K because I don't have any more spots. So that means that L is going to go with M over here. And then over here, I think I'm going to break this up again and do my fourth world broken up too, because depending on where J goes, if J is in that second spot or that third spot, is going to determine if L is forced to go with K or not. So I'm going to take the second world and I'm going to say J is in 2. I'm going to make a fifth world. And I'm going to say J's in 3 in that world and keep J in 2 here. And that way we can look at this, and in that second world, L is going to flip-flop between 1 or 3 again. I'm going to write it like this. But in that fifth world, when J's with M, we know that L is going to have to go with K. And then my fourth world, I'm going to do the same thing, because depending on if J is with M or not is going to determine if K is going to be forced to be put with L or not. So I'm going to make a sixth world. M-O. Why do I have K in the middle? Okay. I'm going to put J in that third row there. Keep J in my first column. So now when I'm looking at that third rule, L is with K or M. L is either going to go in that second spot or that third spot. And then in the sixth world, L is forced to go with K. Don't have to think about that rule anymore because I've placed all of my L, K, and M variables kind of relatively. I have an idea of where they can go and where they can't go. And now comes the fun part because I've pretty much placed almost all my variables except for P. Yeah, I've got, how many variables do I have? I have 6. So yeah, I've pretty much placed 5 of them. So now I can just go through and determine if P is going to be a floater or if P is forced to go somewhere. So in this case, P kind of becomes a floater. I'm not forced to put it anywhere because I've got a variable on each one of my columns, but I have to keep in mind that P can't go in 1. So it means that P is going to flip-flop between 2 or 3. And it's not like if I put L anywhere, it forces P to go into a certain spot. There's still space for P to always go in either 2 or 3. So I'm going to represent that by saying it's a floater and just diagramming that it's going to go in between 2 and 3. I guess you could also write it like this if you wanted to. I'm going to keep my circle just because I want to. In this third world, we're forced to put P in this third spot because it hates spot 1, but we're still in violation of a rule because we don't have anything in spot 1. So this world actually dies, can't exist. Yeah, I'll keep it like that. And then we'll go into our fifth world, just right across. So if P hates 1, we're actually forced to put it into that second spot because we don't have anyone in that second spot yet. And we've gone through all of our other variables. So P is going to hit my second spot. In world number 2, P hates 1, so it can't go in 1. But P is going to flip between 2 and 3. Now, this world is a little bit different compared to world 1 because depending on where I put L is going to determine if I have to put P in 2 or not, or if it flips between 2 and 3. So you could do this one of 2 ways. You could write out another diagram, putting L in one of those 2 spots and placing P. But I think I'm actually just going to do the same thing that I did in that second world. And then if I need to, or if you struggle with kind of mentally moving your variables around, I can just write out a diagram if I start to find myself struggling with that part. So I'm just going to leave it like this for now. In my fourth world, P hates 1 again. And we're stuck between it going in between 2 and 3. Same thing is happening in world number 4 that happened in world number 2 though. Because if I put L in that third spot, it's going to force P to go in that second spot. But if L goes in that second spot, then P can flip between 2 and 3. There's still a spot for P to go. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did in 2. I'm just going to say it's a floater between 2 and 3. And actually, I wasn't going to erase this, but I am now because I'm getting squished. And we'll move you over here. We'll move you up here. Okay. So now I have P going between 2 and 3. And again, once it comes to the point where if I have to start thinking about placing P in a certain spot, or what happens if L is in that third spot, I can just diagram it out to the side if I want to. And our last diagram that we have to think about is the 6th diagram. Same thing happens in the 6th diagram that happened in our 3rd diagram. If P hates 1, it can't go in 1, but we have to put something in 1, and we don't have any other variables to place in that first column. So that means that this world dies because I can't place P somewhere and the diagram still be valid. So that world does not exist. Actually, I'm just going to erase it. So now we have 4 diagrams basically to go off of, which will be really helpful in our questions because when we go through our questions, we can just go through, determine where the questions are talking about within our diagrams, and then we can just answer with ease. So, any questions before I move on into the actual questions?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now, with that diagram, I've seen that also on LSAT Demon.
Yeah.
Like when you break it into the worlds. Yeah. See how long that takes for it to get set up. How do they expect you to do that when you're actually taking the test? I know it's going to get better with practice, as you continuously do that. But yeah. I'm thinking about time. Like, how do you have time to do all of that and then answer the questions?
So there's two things I have to say about it. One is, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen them go through the questions. The questions take me less than 15 seconds to answer most of the time. So even though it takes me, I would say if I wasn't explaining my thought process and everything, I would say it might take me maybe 5 to 7 minutes to set up these diagrams. And then my questions are taking me less than a minute, maybe a minute and a half. And then the other point that you said, it does get better as you practice, because what you'll notice is the games repeat themselves. And so when you're setting up diagrams like this, I can't tell you right now, but I could probably find another game that has a very similar setup to this. So I'm used to playing around with my variables in this way. The other thing that I should note is doing shortcuts like this. I don't like calling them shortcuts, but they are shortcuts. These shorthand notations are going to help you kind of speed up in a sense, because I'm not having to break the diagram further down. I can instead, when I go into my questions, see this and I can think about and mentally move P between 2 and 3 rather than writing it out to the side. I would say I've used worlds throughout my entire LSAT journey, and frequently I have 5 minutes to spare on these kinds of sections, on logic game sections like this. So it can be done by breaking up your diagrams into worlds like this. It does take time to kind of get used to it, but I think any method in logic games is going to take time to do it in an efficiently, timely manner.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to dive into the questions, and they're going to be fairly quick.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So first things first, our first question is a list question. So I actually don't recommend using your diagrams for the list question. This one I would say probably would be maybe a special consideration, because I only have 4 diagrams, but when you start working on games where you have like 5, 6, or 7 diagrams, it gets super time consuming to go through each diagram and compare it to each answer choice. So for these list questions, I recommend going through the rules and eliminating the ones that are violating your rules. So for example, if M is assigned to 3, I'm going to go through all my answer choices and make sure that M is assigned to 3. That eliminates D because M's in 2, so I can cross this off. So I'm going to give it like maybe a minute and a half, maybe, for you to go through the answer choices, figure out an answer choice that you like, and then we can go over it if you have questions. If you need me to scroll down to answer choice E, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of wait. Okay. Do you have an answer choice that you like or that you're stuck between? Anything like that?
B and C.
You're stuck between B and C?
Yes.
Okay. I was too until I went through my rules again. I think I went through my rules a little too quickly when I went through it because I got stuck between B and C too. And I was like, wait, one of these has to be right. One of them has to be wrong. So if we go through our rules again, we'll just go through them again and make sure that both of them are adhering to it. So we've already gone over the first rule. M is assigned to 3. That's happening in both of them. So we're good there. Our second rule is where we can distinguish between B and C. Our second rule says we don't like, or we neither O nor P is assigned to area 1. And that's what's going to eliminate C is we have P in area 1. So we can eliminate C in that way. And in B, area 1 doesn't have either O or P, so we're fine there. And then just to double check with B, L is assigned to the same area as either K or M. L is assigned to K, so we're good there. And then our next rule is O is assigned to area 2, then J is assigned to the same area as K. Well, in this world specifically, oh wait, O is assigned to area 2. J is assigned to the same area as K. Well, that's not right. B is not our answer choice either. So maybe I went too quickly. B and C don't happen. E, we don't have O or P in area 1, so we're good there. L has to be with K or M. We're good there. If O is assigned to area 2, then J is assigned to the same area as K. Yeah, there's our answer choice. Our answer choice is E. What happens when you don't scroll down? Did that answer your question between why B and C are wrong?
Yes, it did.
Okay. I definitely went too quickly with my rules. But even once we do pick E, we should be able to find E in our diagrams to double check that it is an answer choice. Let me grab a different color pen. So E is going to have J, K, and L together. That's happening here. Then we have P and O, and then we just have M and 3. So it does show up in our diagrams. So even though I don't recommend using your diagrams to get your answer choice in this scenario, it is a good way to double check that your diagrams are correct and that you have a correct answer choice.
Okay.
Okay, so our next one is a really good question to kind of show you why I do worlds and how quickly these answer choices can be. So we have, the question is saying, if O is a sole ranger assigned to 2, then which one of the following could be the complete assignments of rangers to area 3? So I'm going to give you a little bit to try this answer choice, and then we'll go over it of how you should attack it and use your diagrams.
Is it B?
Which one did you say?
B.
B, you like B. Okay. Let's go over it. So let's go over how to use the diagram and to attack the question. So the first things first, this is giving me an if prompt. So it's only restricting me to the diagrams where O is the sole ranger assigned to 2. So looking at my diagrams over here, that's only happening in 1 where I can have O be the only one in that area. So it means that after we figured out that this is our diagram, we can only have P in this third area, because if P is bouncing between 2 and 3 and O has to be the only one in there, it's going to force it to go into 3. So this is what I was saying by if you're able to mentally move your variables around, or if you need to write it out, because if you just look at your diagram like this, you can and you should get to the point where you can mentally picture P going into that third spot. But if you need to write it out, that's what's going to take you a little bit longer. It takes like 5 seconds to write out your diagram. So I don't want that to like hinder whether you use this process or not. But if O is the only one in 2, we're going to have to force P to go over in 3. So which one of the following could be the complete assignment of rangers to area 3? So when we look at it, our answer choice has to be one possibility. So it could be true, just has to happen once. So if we can make M and L be the only ones in area 3, that's what would be our correct answer choice. But in this case, we can't make M and L be the only ones in there, because we have to include P in that third spot. If part of our question, if it didn't happen that O had to be the only one in 2, then it could be that M and L could be a complete assignment in spot 3. But this if part of our question is going to force P to go over here, which means that B is no longer a correct answer choice. So we can't have B. And then I'll go back up to A and kind of go through all the answer choices. So we can't have A be our answer choice because, again, we have to have P in there somewhere. So A is wrong as well. C could be a possible option because L is still allowed to flip-flop. The only thing that's not allowed to flip-flop anymore is P. So technically, we could say that L is going to go in this first world and P is going to happen with M over here, which actually is very similar to our list question diagram, except I think P was in the second spot. So we could have just moved P over. But so M and P could be the only ones in that third column. So we like C because we can make it happen.
So what about that L? You know how you have that L with the slash there? What does that mean? That's what I was going by. I didn't even think about the P.
Gotcha. So L, you can do this in a number of different ways if you want. I like writing it like this to notate that L could go over there. You could write it like, I guess you could write it something like this if you wanted to, like our P up here. So L is going to move between 1 and 3. It can go into column 1 or it can go into column 3. It's flexible. The only thing that it can't go into is that second spot. And actually, is that right? Yeah, I'm losing my mind. So L can only go into that cannot go into that second spot. It can only move between 1 and 3. So that's what the L slash signifies, is I can have L in 1 or I can have L in 3. I can move it around.
Okay.
Does that answer it?
Yes.
Perfect. And then D and E, we can't even have J over in area 3. So those are almost immediately out because I can't have a diagram where J is in that third column if we're using our first diagram. Actually, the only diagram where J is in 3 is this one. Interesting to note. So anyways, our answer choice is going to be C. Any questions about that?
So for that L again, it can either go in 1 or 3, but it can't be in both.
Right, because we only have one L to use, basically.
Okay, I got it now. Okay, all right.
Some of our games, we could have repeat variables. So for some reason, this game is the only one that's coming to mind, is where like you're baking batches of cookie. You have batch 1, you have batch 2, you have batch 3 of 3 different kinds of cookies. So technically you have 3 oatmeal cookies. So technically you have 3 O's to work with. If you're going to have repeat variables, there's going to be some indication that something is repeating itself. And that's when you can go, okay, I have 1 L here. I can put 2 L's here, basically. When you come across a game like that where it's repeating variables, if you know the amount of variables that are repeated, so if it says that L can be used twice or something, put 2 L's down there. So that way, if you do place an L, you can kind of cross them out as you go. Maybe L has to go into 2, but your other L can flip between 1 and 3. So kind of keeping a track of who do I have to really worry about and who can I just place. Those are usually the more difficult games. Yeah, I guess I could call them more difficult. They're like, it usually happens around like game 3, maybe sometimes a game 2, but you start to see them around game 3, game 4 is when you start to see repeat variables, because they can be tricky to kind of keep track of. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 8, which says if exactly 1 ranger is assigned to area 1, then which one of the following must be true?
Okay, so I'm stuck between A and B based off of the world 4, or is that a 6? Yeah, off of that chart. But that L gets me every time, because if I go with J, but I'm thinking about, okay, if I go with K in area 2, is L supposed to be there, or is L going to be on 3? Like, I can't. It gets me every time with that one that can go into different spots.
Okay, so let's try doing it a different way, because you can diagram L flipping multiple ways. If it gets to the point where you're really struggling with seeing that L flip, we can break it up again and make 2 worlds, one where L is in 1, L is in 3. But let's try. Does this P make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay, so let's try this. Ooh. I'm not good at like squeezing my oh wait, I can move this over here. Put it down here. And then I'll move this up here to give me some space. Let's do this. What did I do? Oh, it was L. L's going in 1 or L's going in 3. We'll write it this way in all of our worlds. L is in 2 or L is in 3. Same thing down here. Can you still see this?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want it to get cut off. We'll try writing it like that for you. because you can write how L is flipping in any way that really makes sense. So if the slashes don't make sense to you, but these kind of arrows do, then we'll do that. But I think you're also confused on what this question is truly asking. So let's go over the question and use our diagrams to answer it, because this is a question where you can actually predict the answer. And this is a question that is actually better at showing how your worlds can be a huge time saver than the other question. I looked at this question and immediately knew it within 5 seconds. So we have our question saying if exactly one ranger is assigned to area 1. So I'm going to pause right there. Honestly, when it gives me an if like this, I always pause before I finish the question, because it means that it's restricting me to diagrams where this if is only happening. So in this case, it's restricting me to diagrams where one ranger is assigned to area 1. You're right. That could happen over here. J could be the only one in area 1, but you're also missing this diagram right here. We could have it be that K is the only one in 2, because we can move L over here. We can force it to fit this question, basically. Nothing really is forced to happen over here. P and L are still flipping. So I'm still going to put an X through there. So we have actually 2 diagrams that we have to look at. And the reason why we don't have, or why we actually can't just hone in on one diagram, is because it's a must be true. So it's completely different from our other question, which was a could be true. Could be true just has to happen once, but a must be true has to happen every single time. Must be true is 100%. So when we're looking at this question, it has to happen in both of these worlds. It can't just happen in one. Well, it has to happen in one, but it has to happen in both. We can't just say it's not happening in 2. I don't care about 2. We have to look at both of them. So when we look at answer choice A and B, we have to ask ourselves, does J always end up in area 1? Does K always end up in area 2? And while that happens in our 4th world, it doesn't happen in our 2nd world. In fact, they flip with each other. So because it can't happen in them all the time, A and B are actually both wrong, because it's not a must be true. It doesn't have to happen that J is in 1. You can also form it in your head as going, well, I could have J in 2. And the moment you say, well, J could go in this other area, or K could go in this other area, it's immediately wrong. So looking at C, asking ourselves, we're looking for the must be true. Does it have to be true that L is in 3?
No, because L flip-flops.
Yeah, it could flip-flop in that 4th world. Even though it's happening in the 2nd world, I still have it flip-flopping in this 4th world. So C is wrong. Okay. D says O is assigned to area 3. Does that have to happen in both of those worlds?
Yes.
Yeah. In both of those worlds that I'm looking at, O is always in 3. There's no other place that O can go in. I don't have it signifying that it can flip with anyone. It's not in another spot. So this one has to be true all the time. But eliminating E, P is assigned to area 2. We know right off the bat that does not have to happen. That actually doesn't have to happen most of the time, because P is a floater. It's flipping between 2 and 3. So it's not 100% true that P is in area 2. Now, the trick to these must be true questions, and why it comes to me so quickly, why I know D is the correct answer, is because I can predict this answer. Not even looking at my answer choices, if I know that I'm narrowed down to these 2 areas, and this is basically what I'm working on, L is forced in 3, I have a flip-flop over here, I can look at my diagrams and see what has to be consistent. So for example, if I'm looking at this, I actually have 2 things that are consistent. M and O always have to be in 3. So immediately before I even go into my answer choices, I'm predicting M is in 3, O is in 3. P and L, I'm not even going to spend any time on any answer choices that have P and L in them because they're floaters. When they're floaters like this, it's never going to be a correct answer and it must be true. Never. So the moment you have a must be true question and you see your floaters off to the side or any variables that are flip-flopping between each other, immediately wrong, because it means that we could have that variable in two separate spaces, which basically leaves me with J and K, and I can look at my diagrams and notice that they are in different spots all the time. So before even looking at my answer choices, I can predict it's going to either be M or O. In this case, it's my O, but essentially this O can be replaced with M, and the answer choice would still be the same.
Okay, that makes sense. I got it.
So this is really where diagrams come in and can be huge time savers, actually, because it takes me 5 seconds to find the answer choice. I pick it, I move on. Okay, we're going to go into question number 9, which says, which one of the following rangers cannot be assigned to area 3?
Jefferson, E.
You like E? Okay. So we're looking for something that cannot happen. So I don't know about you, but these like cannots or these negative questions were always super hard for me to understand for some reason. It's hard to see what can't happen rather than something that can happen. So to attack these cannot be true questions, if we know that our correct answer choice can 100% never happen, our 4 wrong answer choices could happen. So rather than going into the question thinking about what can't happen, I actually look for what can happen and then I'll eliminate them. So for example, in answer choice A, I could make P go into that third area. I can make that happen in pretty much all these 3 diagrams. P could go into that third area. So I can eliminate P because it does have a possibility of happening. It removes a percentage of that 100% not happening. It's really confusing, but because I can make it happen, it cannot happen. Cannot happen? I don't know, double negatives. So I'm going to do that for all of my answer choices. Oh, I can make that happen. It can actually happen in these 3 diagrams. I can have O here, here, and here. So I can make it happen. That means that B is wrong. L, we kind of already discussed L. Actually, L is flipping between 1 and 3 in pretty much half of my diagrams, and then L between 2 and 3 in that 4th diagram. So I know I can make that happen. Oh, that's gonna. There we go. K. Do we see a world where I can put K in 3?
I don't see one.
Here.
Do I?
What'd you say?
I said how I keep getting this wrong.
Okay, so then why is E wrong? Or why is E not the correct answer choice? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it looks like, is that J? Is J in the 3rd row? Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Maybe I don't have it.
I saw that. I was, yeah, kind of looked crossed out, but I saw that. But
I know that it's sometimes going off of diagrams that are not in your handwriting can be really kind of hard to read for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't think that made it any better.
Okay.
So yeah, because we can make it happen in this, I think that's a 5. In
Yeah.
this world, that means that it's wrong because it can make it happen. K, I have no diagram where K is happening. So,
I think that's what I just confused it as I was looking at the diagram. Instead of me doing the cannot, I was thinking of the can. I don't know what I was doing, but
yeah, so really try, for some reason, these negative kinds of questions are super hard for students to understand. And like, even me, they were super hard to kind of get a grasp on, because you're looking for something that can't happen, but you have these diagrams showing what can happen. So use it to your advantage to find something that can happen. And
exactly.
say it again.
I said exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah. Always, I guess another tip I could say is repeat the question every time you go into an answer choice, because that's what also happens is people will go, okay, I'm looking for something that cannot be true. And then they go, A, well, I can make P happen in 3. And we're so used to looking at the positives. We're so used to looking for something that can happen that halfway through our answer choices, we go, well, that can happen. That can happen. I'm stuck between 2 answer choices. So rather than, or always go into your answer choices going, okay, what cannot happen? What cannot happen? What cannot happen? And always repeat that or the question, so then you're kind of still on track with what you're looking for. Okay, our next question says, if K is assigned to area 2, then which one of the following could be true? So let's start off with figuring out where K is assigned to area 2, because it's giving me an if. That means I'm only restricted to when K is assigned to area 2. Where does that happen in our diagrams?
In number 6.
Yeah, I can only have it here. So basically, these diagrams mean nothing to me right now. I can't look at them. I'm only looking at this diagram. So now we're looking for something that could be true, which means it just has to happen once. What could be true?
Okay, I'm stuck between C and E.
Okay. So now between C and E, this is the good thing about making worlds, is in order to pick an answer choice, you have to point to a diagram or tell me where all the variables are. That way you know you can make it happen. So for answer choice C, can you put L into spot 1?
Yes.
In this 4th world?
No, I was looking at it wrong. L can only go in 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Oh, just a simple mistake. Oh my God, I need to get it together. Okay.
But you're getting somewhere, because that leaves us with E, and we can make that happen. We could put P in 3 because we have these 2 arrows saying that P is either in 2 or 3. We can put P in 3. It's going to force L to go into 2, but that can happen. So at least you got it down to correct answer. You got it
Yeah,
in your.
I was almost right. Yes.
When you read L in area 1, what made you think you could do it? Was it like how it was diagrammed? Did you have the right part?
It was the diagram again. I just need to for some reason I was just thinking that was over more to the left in area 1, but it wasn't. That was just a clear mistake on my part. Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and I get like sometimes I feel like some of these like the things that you're missing, I feel like are easily resolved with if you wrote it out in your handwriting the way you would diagram it, I think you would have gotten them.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like it's my handwriting.
That's okay, because now I feel like, I am seeing some progress. I'm getting it.
You're understanding the concept of it, which is my main concern. I think if you were to write it out, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
I think everything else looks to be in order. I think they all look good. Okay. So number 11, if L and O are assigned the same area, then which one of the following could be true? So before we even go into our questions, it's giving me an if, which means it's restricting me to when L and O are only in the same area as each other. So where can that happen? Where could we put L and O together?
L and O. And 2.
Yeah.
And what about 6?
Yeah. Because L is still flip-flopping, we have a spot for to put it in there. Now, before I even go into the question choices or the answer choices, I can actually do a little bit more work because if P is flipping between 2 and 3, I now have no more spots in 3 for P. So that means that P is going to be forced to go into that second spot. So I can actually have complete diagrams to answer this question, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But we're looking for something that could be true. So it has to happen once. In this situation, this will be a lot easier for you to double check yourself. You should be able to point to a diagram and say, J is happening in 3 in this diagram or something. So when you pick your answer choice, make sure you have your diagram to back it up.
I don't know about this one.
You stuck between a few?
Well, I think I am B. And I was thinking P, but P is in 2 in both of them. So I don't think it's not an area 3.
You're right. P can't go in 3. It can't go in 3 anymore. If we didn't have this if, P could go in 3, but this is restricting it. So P can no longer go in 3. So you're right.
Okay. I don't believe O can go in 2 because we've had it in 3.
That's right as well.
And then Larson, let's see, area 1. Me and that L. It flip flops, but oh no, we already got it over there in 3.
Yeah, but with this question, L and O are going to be the same. So if O is restricted to 3, L is going to be restricted to 3.
Got it. Yep. Okay. That's right.
Even though it could flip-flop, this if is a big indicator that we are so restricted we can't think about L flip-flopping anymore.
Got it. Okay.
Now you're between A and B.
All right. So. Okay. Could be true. J go into 3. Go into. I say B.
Yay!
Oh God, yes.
Got one.
So I got one finally.
We were stuck on area J being on area 3 because of this diagram. We have to remember this if part right here. It's restricting me to only when L and O are in the same area together. So for this question specifically, we can no longer use these diagrams. Even though they're still valid throughout my game, for this question specifically, they're invalid to me. I don't care about them anymore. So that's why we can eliminate A, is because in the diagrams that we can use, J's either in 2 or J's in 1. Can't go in 3.
Yay, I got it.
Okay. Last one. If J is assigned to area 2, which one of the following must be true? So let's try predicting this one. So it's giving me an if again. So if J is assigned to area 2, let's figure out where J is assigned to area 2. Where in my diagrams can we put J in 2?
In diagram 2?
Yep. That's my only diagram that I can really work with here.
Okay.
So it's a must be true, which means it has to happen all the time. So what we can predict is what is consistent all the time within this diagram. For me, automatically, I'm thinking, well, P and L are always flipping. Any answer choice that's going to include a P or an L is wrong, because it does not have to be true that P's in 2 or P's in 3.
Okay.
So I can immediately eliminate B, D, and E, because it does not have to be true that P's in 2, does not have to be true P's in 3, and L does not have to go in 1. L could go in 3 technically. So I've already eliminated my answer choice just by looking at my diagram and going, I have flipping variables. I'm going to answer those or eliminate those. Now I'm between A and C. And between those two, I can look at K and I can look at O. Which one has to happen?
K.
Yeah. That's our answer choice.
2. I'm bad. Yes.
It has to be true that O is in 2. It actually can't even happen in that world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So super easy, super simple. When you do must be truths, can become super easy because you can predict them. And just notating what could happen, or I guess distinguishing the difference between could be true and must be true is a really big factor in these games. Okay, I think that was the last one. Yeah. So the last question of the game. Do you have any questions about the game, the setup, the questions themselves?
No, I think once I get that diagram down pat, I can pretty much tackle it. I know the first couple ones was kind of, they was rough, but I had to get there. Like you said, read it in my own handwriting and get the concepts together. But I was getting to the right choices. I just, was getting mixed up between 1 or 2. So
yes. So it's a good starting point. Yeah. I do host these free classes every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Central Time. I just put up May's schedule, so that's all should be good to go. And then Nicole and I, who is another tutor with us, oh, I gotta remember the dates. Where's her text? Here we go. So we're going to be doing a boot camp, which is going to cover all 3 sections. So we'll cover logic games, she'll cover reading comp and LR. There'll be homework. We'll meet, I think it's like an hour and a half a night, or maybe 2 hours a night. I think it's on Tuesday and Saturdays, hour and a half. And we'll be starting that May 10th, and then that will go up until, when does that go up until? Like beginning of June? Yeah, June 4th. And then we'll start up again June 18th for a full boot camp. So the first one's only about like a month long. The second one's like a 6-week long course. We'll be going over all 3 sections of both of them. But if you're on a time constraint, the mini boot camp can be a better option. So I will send links out for that for more information along with the recording. But other than that, I don't really have anything else.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll be looking for that information. Right now, originally I was going to retake. This will be my 3rd time. No, yeah, 3rd time retaking